Ladies and gentlemen, the 2025 Slammy Awards are here and ready for you to vote on over on the WWE's website. So we're going to go through every category, every nominee, and award the Slammy Award to who I think deserves it the most. Here's the thing about this year's Slammy Awards, I don't really know what the timeline that they're critiquing include, because it's not just 2024, because this includes some stuff that's happened in 2025 as well, so I can only assume that this is from WrestleMania 40 up until today. So it includes most of 2024 and part of 2025. And just like every Slammy Award year, there are some weird categories and some weird nominees as well. But hey, let's have fun with it. That's why I wore my best fitting suit. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're gonna fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. Don't forget, if you want more than just daily wrestling content, come over to the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. Over there, we upload so much more extra content. It's not even funny. Way more content that we can never upload here on YouTube because we use footage over there and it would just get blocked here on YouTube because of copyright. So go check it out. Patreon.com/SantiZap. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Let's start the Slammy Awards, baby. All right, so here are all the different categories that WWE has designated for this year's Slammy Awards. We have Most Memorable Entrance, Social Star of the Year, followed by OMG Moment of the Year, and Faction of the Year alongside Tag Team of the Year. We then have Breakout Superstar of the Year, NXT Superstar of the Year. We have WTF Moment of the Year. What's the difference between OMG and WTF? IDK. Rivalry of the Year, Female Superstar of the Year, Male Superstar of the Year, and of course, Match of the Year. We're gonna go through all of these and I'm gonna tell you who I think deserves to win. Starting things off with Most Memorable Entrance, let's go through all of the different nominees that WWE.com has designated. We have Cody Rhodes' entrance at WrestleMania 40 where he was wearing the skull helmet and came out with Brandy Rhodes. We have Jey Uso's entrance on the Raw on Netflix debut with Travis Scott, where Travis Scott smoked a little bit of that devil's lettuce during the entrance. Roman Reigns' entrance at WrestleMania 40 with the band and the choir. We have The Rock's entrance with the final boss Engage and the fiery Brahma Bull on the ground at WrestleMania 40. We have Bayley's entrance at WrestleMania 40 with the Anubis henchman carrying the Egyptian goddess. We have Randy Orton at Bash in Berlin. Nothing special about this entrance, just a super hyped crowd singing the song at the top of their lungs. We have Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 40 with the Philadelphia Mummers Band. I remember this because it kind of looked like Seth Rollins was doing a World of Warcraft raid. We have Sami Zayn's entrance on Raw in Montreal right before the match against Chad Gable, where he met up with Jey Uso and said, hey, the first time I came here, I was a wrestling fan, and now I'm coming in as the Intercontinental Champion, and he comes in through the crowd. It was pretty hype. We then have Sami Zayn's entrance at WrestleMania 40, where he met up with his wife, his kid, with Kevin Owens and Chad Gable before he goes out to the ring. We have Logan Paul's entrance with Machine Gun Kelly at SummerSlam. I thought that this was completely forgettable, and I don't really know why it's even on here. We have Dominic Mysterio at WWE Bad Blood with Liv Morgan in the Lowrider. This was awesome. And then we have Drew McIntyre's entrance at Clash at the Castle. All right, so there are a lot of nominees, not just for this category. Most of these categories have a ridiculous amount of nominees that I would never have considered. For example, Logan Paul and MGK is not really something that is even worthy talking about, in my opinion. But the winner, in my opinion, and this might be a controversial opinion, all right, my choice is Sami Zayn's at WrestleMania 40. And hear me out. Listen, I understand it wasn't the most hype, the most grandiose entrance, but this was the most impactful entrance out of all of them. Think about the Sami Zayn and Gunther feud. Yeah, you can't really think about it. It sucked. The only thing that made this feud in any way, shape, or form memorable was Sami Zayn's entrance. When that entrance happened, I said, you son of a bitch, I'm in. That entrance was all of the hype that Sami Zayn versus Gunther needed. So in my opinion, it was the most impactful entrance at getting you excited for the match. So I'm gonna go with Sami Zayn at WrestleMania 40, even if it's not the most glamorous of entrances. We then have Social Star of the Year, and WWE only has 2 people in this category, by far the smallest category in this year's Slammy Awards. We have, of course, Drew McIntyre, the ultimate troll on social media, chronically online, some may say, and Chelsea Green, who I could say a lot of the things I just said about Drew McIntyre about Chelsea Green. She has been amazing on social media and such a delight as well. In my opinion, the winner is, and no disrespect to Chelsea Green, I don't even think it's close, it's Drew McIntyre. This dude basically built his entire character off of being an angry IWC member online. This guy had the best best tweet of the freaking decade with bored at work LOL in the middle of a world championship match against Seth freaking Rollins. This guy builds and advances feuds regularly on social media as well, and has great commentary on things that are happening in and around wrestling with his memes and the things that he says on Twitter and on Instagram with his videos. Drew McIntyre is the winner. He's the best social media thing going on in WWE today. I will say, kind of interesting that they didn't include Logan Paul. His whole thing is social media. He had a bunch of major WWE superstars on his podcast. His vlogs have been awesome, by the way. They've been predominantly WWE related vlogs. So I'm surprised Logan Paul wasn't on this list. But even if Logan was on this list, I still would have awarded this to Drew McIntyre. To me, it was a runaway. I've never shared this about myself, but I'm a big fan of Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide Dale. So I'm going to be going to a Pitbull concert later in May for my birthday. Turns out the dude's still kind of popular, so tickets are kind of expensive, which is why I wanted to give today's sponsor a huge shout out, SeatGeek, because they helped me get the best available price. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There's more than 70,000 events currently listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. And right now you can get tickets to the WWE, which I know you like, the NBA, NHL, MLB, or March Madness games. I personally love using SeatGeek because of how easy it is to sort through it. Like, for example, I can just quickly look through comedy shows, music festivals, Broadway events, concerts, whatever it might be. It's all neatly organized right on the app. And it's nice to know that SeatGeek has your back because each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know that you're gonna get a good deal. So look for the green dot. A green dot means good, red dot means bad. It's nice that it tells you that. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And listen, I didn't wear a bald cap if I wasn't gonna come through with the goods for you guys, because you can use Santi10 for 10% off your next set of tickets on SeatGeek. That's 10% off tickets with promo code Santi10. Make sure that you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so that you could use it later for whatever it is that you want to attend. Thank you once again to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video. Let's get you back to the wrestling that you love. Dale. Let's go to OMG moment of the year. Again, don't really understand the difference between this and WTF. Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns match finish at WrestleMania. That's exactly how WWE listed it, so I can only presume that it includes all of the shenanigans, the stuff between the Usos, John Cena coming out, the Solo Sikoa stuff, the Shield Rollins, of course, The Undertaker and The Rock. I'm assuming it includes like all of the Avenger Assemble moments that we had in that WrestleMania 40 match. A legendary sequence of moments for sure. We then have Dominic Mysterio turning on Rhea Ripley with Liv Morgan at SummerSlam. The kiss heard around the world. I was here. I was in the stadium to see this moment, and this was one of the best moments of the year, bar none. We have Kevin Owens turning on Randy and Cody in October. I think it's interesting that they have this specifically instead of Kevin Owens pile driving Randy Orton, but hey, this is what they included. This is a strong contender. We have the New Day turning on Big E, one of the best, if not the best turn of the year. It's not my fault that it was wasted and that they've done absolutely nothing with it, but this singular moment was unbelievably good, and I wish they had built more on this after it happened. This was one of the best moments of the year, in my opinion. We then have Tiffany Stratton's Money in the Bank cash-in on Nia Jax on SmackDown. Of course, you're gonna have Money in the Bank cash-ins on here all the time, including a Money in the Bank cash-in of Damian Priest on Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 40 after Drew McIntyre beat Seth Rollins for the title and then started showboating on top of CM Punk. We then have the Wyatt 6 debut on Monday Night Raw. To me, this was one of the coolest things that WWE has ever produced. It was so good. Similar to the New Day thing, not their fault or my fault that they haven't really done a good job at building on it. We then have Braun Breaker spearing Ice Show Speed at the Royal Rumble, seen over 300 million times on social media. Bronson Reed hitting a tsunami on Braun Strowman on top of a car. We have John Cena turning on Cody Rhodes at WWE Elimination Chamber. I mean, you probably already can assume that this is going to win, right? Like, there's no bigger moment in the past 20 years than this, for God's sake. But hey, let's finish out the nominees. We have Roman Reigns returning at SummerSlam, new theme and everything. And then we have a really recent one, Io Sky Sky beating Rhea Ripley to become the women's world champion on Monday Night Raw. This, out of all of them in terms of like surprise and shock factor, is up there. But hey, let's just be quick with this. The winner of this is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, John Cena turning heel and attacking Cody Rhodes at Elimination Chamber. Like I said, one of the biggest moments in professional wrestling history, period. Not one of the biggest moments of the year, professional wrestling history, period. If this was only 2024, the stuff that happened at WrestleMania 40 would have probably won in terms of like the OMG moment, but quite literally nothing holds a candle to this. This is insane that we even live in a universe where we're even talking about this. John Cena's heel turn wins. Faction of the year. And as WWE listed the nominees, I realized this was not a great year for factions when in previous years, Triple H loved building factions. So let's see the nominees that we have here. We have the OG Bloodline, which is weird to include considering they were part of one PLE match at Survivor Series War Games. We then have the Judgment Day, who had a terrible year. They basically almost broke up like 3 different times. They lost a bunch of members, lost a bunch of gold. They had a terrible year. We have the New Bloodline, the Timu Bloodline led by Solo Sikoa, followed by American Made, one of my favorite things in the WWE at this very moment. We then have Damage Control, who I think is just on here out of pity because I don't know in what world they're even being nominated for Faction of the Year. They had a terrible year. An absolutely awful year. But here is who I think the winner is. In my opinion, the winner is, and it's actually not even close, even if you do not like them, the best faction of the year was the New Bloodline, being led by Solo Sikoa, seeing the slow formation of it with the Tongans and then adding Jacob Fatu, them kicking out Jimmy Uso, destroying the Wise Man as well. The fact that they were basically the top of the food chain for the better part of 2024 as well. I think to me, it's not even close. This was the best faction of the year. They had the best storylines for the most part throughout the year. And even though they are no more, their impact was very, very significant. So I'm going to go with Solo Sikoa's New Bloodline as the winner of Faction of the Year. Now let's look at Tag Team of the Year. And this was not a good 12 months for tag team wrestling. It's only been getting good on SmackDown over the past like 5 or so months. But let's look at who WWE designated. We have DIY, and they are 2-time tag team champions in this time frame, and they are absolutely a strong contender. They are part of the reason why the SmackDown tag team division has been flourishing as much as it has been. We then have Awesome Truth. Honestly, don't think that they deserve to be on here. Sure, they won the tag titles and then did nothing with them. So to me, this is just filler. I don't understand why they're on here. Followed by A-Town Down Under. Honestly, also filler. I do not understand why they're here. They did not have a good year. Yeah, they did win the tag titles, but they were basically an afterthought after winning the tag titles. We then have Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. Now we're talking. These two basically, as I said before, carried the lifeless corpse of the women's tag team division to a bunch of PLE matches that under most circumstances, the women's division would not have been in. These two carried that division into a bunch of PLE worthy matches and feuds. We then have Motor City Machine Guns, who debuted in the WWE. We have what they listed as the Bloodline, which I can only presume is the Tongans specifically, Tama Tonga and Tongaloa, who were the tag team champions. However, it's interesting to note that it was Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga that won the tag titles in the first place until Solo Sikoa took the title away from Jacob Fatu and exclusively made him the enforcer. So I included a picture with all 3 of them. But again, when I think of them as a tag team, I think of specifically the Tongans. We then have the War Raiders, who came back in October and won the tag team titles and honestly kind of helped revive the tag team division from Monday Night Raw from the depths that was the Finn Balor and JD McDonough run. Speaking of which, they listed Finn Balor and JD McDonough one of the worst tag team championship runs of all time. Not of the year, of all time. Triple-digit days as champion with like 2 title defenses. This sucked ass. We have the Street Profits and we have Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. When I look at all of those teams, to me, it was between DIY and Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. And to me, the ones that had the most significant impact on their division and the things that they've accomplished, I think it's Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. They also won the tag titles 2 separate times like DIY. So in terms of resume and accomplishments, they're tied. But in terms of impact to their division, what they were able to do with this division, I think that you have to give this to Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, even if they were ultimately a temporary tag team. Breakout Superstar of the Year. And this is very similar to NXT Superstar of the Year, but it basically includes some NXT and some main roster. That's the big difference here. Braun Breaker had an unbelievably good 2024 and early portion of 2025, winning the Intercontinental Championship twice, once from Sami Zayn and then the other time from Jey Uso, but he is just a winning machine, and you can tell that WWE is taking their time with him, but I do believe that he is a strong contender for this category. Following up, we have Lyra Valkyria, who is your inaugural Women's Intercontinental Champion, followed by Penta, who debuted shortly after 2025 began and has been on one hell of a run, having unbelievably good matches and already becoming one of the most popular WWE superstars on the Monday Night Raw roster. We have Obafemi, who absolutely dominated NXT. He had a record run as the North American champion for the better part of 2024, and then it didn't take very long for him after dropping that to win the NXT championship, making the natural transition that we expect. We then have Julia, who joined the WWE in the fall at NXT No Mercy, and very shortly after her debut in NXT won the Women's NXT Championship. We have Tiffany Stratton, who had an excellent year, having great match after great match after great match, winning the Money in the Bank briefcase and ultimately cashing it in as well successfully on Nia Jax. We have Jacob Fatu, who quite literally broke into the scene in Madison Square Garden and destroyed all of the top baby faces of Friday Night SmackDown in Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and Cody Rhodes, and to this day is still one of the most impressive superstars that the WWE has in terms of his mic work, in terms of his matches, in terms of just his overall presentation, and he hasn't even been in the WWE for a year. We have Chelsea Green, who in my opinion as a character really flourished over the past 12 months, also won the inaugural Women's United States Championship. We have Stephanie Vacher, who alongside Julia debuted in the fall and in her short time in NXT won the Women's North American Championship and the Women's NXT Championship, becoming the first women's two-time champion and the two-time champion that we haven't had since Keith Lee all of those years ago in the NXT Black and Gold era. So there are a lot of contenders for this category, but ultimately there was just one guy that just stepped out of the shadow the most, the one guy that made the most instant impact, and to me that is Jacob Fatu. I was between Jacob Fatu and Obafemi, but Obafemi is going to be in a different category where honestly I think he fits a little bit more, but in terms of like when I think of like a breakout, I don't think anyone had a more impactful breakout in 2024 and now in the early portions of 2025 where now he's breaking out again as a single star than Jacob Fatu. Now we have NXT Superstar of the Year, and this has maybe the weirdest omission out of all of the categories. So let's start off with Obafemi. We already just talked about him. I won't spend long here. North American Championship reign that will be remembered forever and is now on NXT Championship run that I don't think is going to end anytime soon, and he did that all within the past 12 months. We have Roxanne Perez, who had an amazing, underrated year in NXT as the women's champion, beating everybody and anyone, and in my opinion, protected that women's division when it was at its weakest before they were able to add a bunch of the big superstar names that they ultimately ended up adding, like the likes of Delta or now Zarya and Stephanie Vacher and Julia. It was Roxanne Perez that was holding that shit down. Then she goes on to the Royal Rumble and has one of the greatest, if not the greatest Royal Rumble run that doesn't include an actual win, and then a great showing at the Elimination Chamber. To me, she is the definition of breakout, but was not included in the breakout, but at least she's included here in NXT Superstar of the Year. We then have Trick Williams, who won the NXT Championship twice in this period, so you absolutely have to consider him in this run. Ethan Page, who broke the record for the fastest time that it took somebody to win the NXT Championship from his debut to actually winning the belt. Incredibly impressive transition from AEW into NXT. It was as if he'd already been there for years. We have Julia, we just talked about shortly after her debut, winning the Women's NXT Championship. And then Kalani Jordan, which I get Kalani Jordan being on here, being the inaugural Women's North American Championship, but that's the last entry. Notice how this doesn't have Stephanie Vacher. How is Stephanie Vacher in Breakout Superstar of the Year competing alongside main roster members, but then not included here in NXT Superstar of the Year? That makes absolutely no sense. Regardless, the winner, even if Stephanie Vaquero was on here, I still would have gone Obafemi. It would have been kind of close, but Obafemi was there for longer and was able to do more things because he was there longer. So Obafemi, NXT Superstar of the Year. Honestly, it wouldn't be the Slammy Awards without an absolutely terrible category that makes no sense. They have WTF Moment of the Year. Again, I don't really understand the difference between WTF and OMG, but this has just some random ass stuff. Let's go through and show you what WWE has designated as WTF. They have R-Truth calling Triple H Champa. Ho, ho, ho. What a WTF moment. Followed by Kevin Owens' car interview with Michael Cole. Honestly, this was pretty awesome. We have Chelsea Green goes into the dumpster, followed by Dominic Mysterio in the shark cage. Honestly, it was kind of a bit of a WTF moment when he like fell out of the shark cage and his leg was chained up and then he was getting beaten like a piñata as Rhea Ripley tried to beat all of that sweet goodness that's inside Dirty Dom Dom. We had I Show Speed with Logan Paul at WrestleMania. I feel like this is appropriate. I feel like WTF was a good response to this. Followed by LA Knight in Logan Paul's pool. WTF! We have John Cena wrestles with R-Truth, which I think is weird because in this very same match, John Cena wrestled with The Miz, which is more of a WTF moment considering that's one of John Cena's biggest rivals in his career, The Miz. So, I don't know, this is weird. I get it. Childhood hero. Oh, look how things have changed over the last couple of months. We have, and I kid you not, it reads as rabid noises from Tamatanga. Yeah. Jacob Fatu says, I love you solo. Oh my God. The epitome of WTF. And then the Wyatt 6 debut. This actually was a WTF moment. They murdered people. I know they didn't actually, but in the moment, it looked like they murdered people. Winner is the Wyatt 6 debut. When I look at these terrible nominees that are on here, the Wyatt 6 debuting is far and away the most memorable thing and the thing that I walked away wanting to talk about the most immediately. The Wyatt 6 debut is one of the coolest things that WWE has ever done. Unfortunately, their follow-up to it has been just abysmal. Rivalry of the Year. Let's get through these. Of course, CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre is on here. We had an amazing trilogy of matches, and what was cool about this trilogy of matches is that they were bang, bang, bang. They happened so quickly. SummerSlam, Bash in Berlin, and then at Bad Blood with Hell in a Cell, and all of them were hellacious matches with interesting stipulations and nuances, like the first match being a special guest referee match with Seth Rollins, and then the four-corner strap match, and then the amazing Hell in a Cell match that they had. Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. Yeah, of course this is on here. I mean, it was the epitome of the WrestleMania 40 arc. Like WrestleMania 40 was carried by everything that was going on with the Bloodline and Cody Rhodes. We then have Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley, and yeah, I think this is absolutely on here. I think the big problem is that this overstayed its welcome and maybe lasted a little bit much longer than people wanted it to. But remember in the summer, this was like the it feud, the thing that everyone was talking about. We then have Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. This is like, is this a joke? Is this a joke? There is no one that has watched wrestling over the past 12 months that would seriously tell you that this was feud of the year. If anything, most people will tell you this was the worst feud of the year. This sucked. What it's doing on here, I do not know. We then have Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. Absolutely, this deserves to be on here. Another great trilogy of matches at Bash in Berlin with both of them as baby faces at Saturday night's main event. And then, of course, what I think is going to go down in history is one of the best ladder matches of all time. The ladder match at the Royal Rumble between these two, where Kevin Owens quite seriously just freaking died. We have Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton, and then Bloodline versus Bloodline, which did have several matches, of course, culminating at Survivor Series War Games. And I will count Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa for the Ula Fala at the Raw Netflix debut as part of this feud as well. Now, the winner to me, it's a complete runaway. You can include more feuds that you feel are deserving, but they included the one feud that absolutely deserves to win, which is Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. Like, it's not even close. From the matches, the promos, all of the stuff that happened in the lead up to the matches and promos with CM Punk screwing over Drew McIntyre over and over and over again at WrestleMania, at Clash at the Castle, at Money in the Bank. Like, there were just so many memorable and quotable things that these guys said in the build up to the matches, and then the matches actually delivered. Absolutely, this was feud of the year, not even close. Female superstar of the year. Let's look at the nominees here. We have Liv Morgan, who, in my opinion, absolutely deserves to be on this list. I was a Liv Morgan doubter. I just didn't see it with Liv Morgan in really early 2024 and in 2023. But throughout the better part of host WrestleMania, Liv Morgan has absolutely proved me wrong, and she is now absolutely one of my favorites on the roster. We then have Rhea Ripley, who, when you think about it, didn't actually have the best year. She had to spend a huge chunk of time on the shelf before WrestleMania. She wasn't really like defending the championship. She lost continuously to Liv Morgan in some way, shape, or form. Even when she won, she lost until eventually winning the title at Raw Netflix, but then lost it again, like not that shortly after against Io Sky. So she actually really didn't have the best year when you think about it. Bayley, I think, is debatable because when you look at the timeline of what this is supposed to include, this technically would not include her Royal Rumble victory. And to me, that's like the biggest talking point of her 2024, her winning the Royal Rumble. But she did go on to have one of the best women's matches of the year. I would say the best women's match of the year at WrestleMania 40 against Io Sky. Defended the championship. Unfortunately, just wasn't really given good feuds or good storylines to really be able to build off of. I think WWE kind of did her dirty by not allowing her to follow up with more Io Sky matches after WrestleMania 40 so that we can really get the full payoff of her feud with Damage Control. We then have Nia Jax, which, if you think about it, absolutely she deserves to be on here. This is a woman that catapulted herself right back to the main event, won the Queen of the Ring, and then wins the WWE Women's Championship, and then like actually has a bunch of defenses and wins. Sure, she got pinned randomly a bunch of times throughout SmackDown, but when it came to actually defending the championship, she would win. So I feel like she's absolutely deserving of being on here. Tiffany Stratton absolutely also deserves to be on here, winning the Money in the Bank briefcase, having great matches throughout the year, and of course, finally cashing in and becoming WWE Women's Champion. How can you not include her on here? Chelsea Green, she had a great year, but I don't know that she's a strong contender for like Women's Superstar of the Year. I think I can name several people that would be ahead of Chelsea Green. And then Io Sky, who had one of the best women's match of the year against Bayley. Then she goes into the tag team division, has killer matches there, even though she's like an afterthought, but she's still, even though she's an afterthought, having the best matches. And then she gets back into singles competition and slowly kind of like climbs her way back, having great matches in both the Queen of the Ring tournament, in the Women's Intercontinental Championship tournament, just making everyone look good until she finally got her moment in a feud with Liv Morgan. She lost that feud, but again, amazing matches until again she got the even better moment against Rhea Ripley, where she shockingly won the Women's World Championship. She had an excellent year, and what's cool about Io Sky's year is that it was kind of a roller coaster, starting at the top, going down to the bottom, and then slowly building herself back up right to the top. It was cool seeing what Io Sky did this past 12 months. Winner, honestly, to me, it's a toss-up, and whichever way you go, I think you're right. I don't think that you're wrong. I think it's either Liv Morgan or Io Sky. You just kind of have to pick your poison. The only reason I ended up going with Io Sky over Liv Morgan is because of just how poor Liv Morgan's championship run was, because they wouldn't allow her to have matches against anyone else that wasn't named Rhea Ripley. If they had allowed Liv Morgan to actually have other matches with other people, like she did at Saturday night's main event against Io Sky, we would have probably seen one of the best runs ever, a best 12-month stretch ever from a female in the WWE. But WWE, in my opinion, did not allow Liv Morgan to really break out the way that she should have broken out. Liv Morgan had a great breakout year, but it should have been even better. So I'm going to go with Io Sky. Again, that memorable Women's World Championship run. She's poised to be in contention for a WrestleMania Night 1 main event based on the story and the feud that she's got going. And just everything that she did, from the low card, mid card, main events at WrestleMania, and now getting back to the main event of WrestleMania for the women, she had such a cool year. I'm going to go with Io. Male Superstar of the Year. We have some heaters in terms of contenders. We have, of course, Cody Rhodes, won the championship, was a champion that defended against pretty much everyone that betrayed him. He did have some detours here or there with the bloodline that nobody wanted to see, but nonetheless, this guy was there every single week, and he had, to me, one of the best matches of the year against AJ Styles and one of the best feuds of the year against Cody Rhodes. So there was just so much to like about Cody Rhodes' 12-month stretch. I do think it may have been better had they not put him into this bloodline detour, but it was still an excellent year for Cody Rhodes. We then have Roman Reigns. I don't think he deserves to be on here. Gunther absolutely deserves to be on here, even though he's not having the greatest run as a world heavyweight champion. He had that awesome match with Sami Zayn that ended his legendarily awesome reign as Intercontinental Champion. King of the Ring winner, goes on to win the World Heavyweight Championship. It hasn't been the greatest. It hasn't been sunshine and rainbows since winning the championship, but absolutely we have to consider him. We then have CM Punk, who, even though wasn't able to wrestle for a good chunk of 2024, even though he wasn't able to wrestle, he was still there being part of TV, developing storylines, cutting the best promos, and he had the best feud and one of the best matches of the year against Drew McIntyre. Damian Priest, a lot of people don't like Damian Priest these days, but he had an excellent year, cashing in Money in the Bank, being an excellent world heavyweight champion when so many people thought he was going to be a paper champion, and then being catapulted to just being this unstoppable monster. Drew McIntyre, this is the guy that so many people say had the best 2024, and I agree. However, his 2025, which includes like what we're including here in the Slammy Awards, hasn't been particularly great. In fact, it's been really, really bad. So he's had a bit of a downturn in terms of his overall stock. Jey Uso, Intercontinental Champion, won the Royal Rumble, going to one of the WrestleMania main events, even though it's a very lackluster storyline. Absolutely, he needs to be on here. Seth Rollins, he was on the shelf for a good chunk of time, so I kind of disagree. He was the MVP of WrestleMania 40, absolutely. Maybe he should be in the conversation, but I don't think he's a strong contender to win. So to me, the winner, honestly, you could kind of take it or leave it, but I am going to go with Cody Rhodes. I know it's a bit of a boring choice, but the early portion of 2025 that Cody Rhodes has had is what catapults him on here and puts him above Drew McIntyre, because Drew McIntyre has had such a weak 2025 compared to Cody Rhodes, who is out here having feuds of the year and match of the year with Kevin Owens, and now he's doing this stuff with John Cena, selling your soul. Cody Rhodes is the cornerstone of the WWE right now, and he was the cornerstone of the WWE throughout 2024. Now let's go to match of the year, my favorite category in the last category. So we have Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. It's gonna be Bloodline Rules. Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk at Bad Blood in a Hell in a Cell match, followed by the tag team match between The Rock and Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, the night one main event of WrestleMania 40. We then have Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam for the Women's World Championship. We have Gunther versus Damian Priest, highly underrated match. Good God, this match was awesome and does not get talked about enough. This match absolutely ruled and was one of the hardest hitting matches of the entire year. We have AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes. Oh, come on. I'm actually shocked that the French crowd's chants to AJ Styles weren't in like the OMG or WTF moments. Again, I don't really understand those categories, but this match was objectively perfect, right down to the last minute detail. We have the War Games match between OG Bloodline featuring CM Punk versus New Bloodline. We have what I already said was, I think, the best women's match of the year in Io Sky versus Bayley for the Women's Championship at WrestleMania 40. Sami Zayn versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 40 as well. We have Gunther versus Randy Orton at Bash in Berlin. In my opinion, they should have had the King of the Ring match final in here instead, although it had that bit of a screwy ending, which was the catalyst for this match in the first place. And then it also includes CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, the Raw Netflix debut. I don't think that this deserves to be on here, in my opinion, compared to some of the other heaters that we've seen. To me, the winner, and it's also just not even close, it is the Bad Blood Hell in a Cell match between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. Look, if you like hype moments, then I think the WrestleMania 40 main event is the match that you probably would have gone with. But in terms of just like pure brutality, in-ring storytelling, this is it. This needed none of the glitz and glamour that the WrestleMania 40 main event needed. The WrestleMania 40 main event needed all of those insane moments for it to be memorable. This was just memorable in its own right. This was just memorable because of just how goddamn good and brutal and amazing it was. So this, to me, was the match of the year and gets the Slammy Award. All right, folks, that's it for today's video. Let me know if you would have voted for something else. But again, you can actually vote for these on the WWE website now. But that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.